What up, guys? It's Ryan with the Kingsman Report, and tonight, what day? Oh, tonight is Sunday, December the 1st, 2019. And tonight I'm going to talk about, if you see in your thumbnail there, you see the moon, and then you see, and I talk about this stuff, and it probably gets old to a lot of people, but China is required, or yeah, I guess they're requiring people to have facial recognition software inside their new cell phones that they purchase. And then I also have some news on the far side of the moon and a whole bunch more articles. So if you guys want to tune in, then you can sit back in your FEMA region and see what news that I got to share with you guys. If you want to call in, you can call a number scrolling across the bottom of the screen. It's 1-408-638-0968. And then you'll enter the meeting ID. It's 534-233-4758, and I will monitor those phone calls. And then you guys can send me articles to kingsmanreport2019@gmail.com. We could talk about those articles or any of these articles you guys want to discuss here. So I'm going to get situated, and then I will be right back after I get everything worked out here. All right. What is up? There's also a chat running if you guys want to chat in there. And you guys are welcome, have your own opinions about stuff. I'm just reading articles that I find interesting on the news. A lot of it people ignore. A lot of it is kind of keeping up with like the whole beast system. It's been here, but it's just becoming more it's becoming more involved in our life through technology and different avenues, more so now than it has been in the past. And I say, as technology advances, their control and their reach is going to advance. So, you can see the article that I have up there. Mike Bloomberg touts taxing the poor. Says, do you want to pander to those people? Oops. There's a picture of him there, and I have another video that shows he and Netanyahu. It was the same day Netanyahu got indicted that Michael Bloomberg filed his paperwork to run for president in the 2020 election. So this article, he said this in 2018, but people were just starting to talk about this again to kind of like they do with anybody that's going to run for president. They want you to kind of remember things that they've said, and let's not forget what type of people they are and what type of ideology they have. So that's kind of where this is at. But we get into this article here. It says, former New York Mayor Michael R. Bloomberg, the latest entry into the Democratic presidential race, has argued in favor of taxing the poor. As recently as last year, the billionaire's media mogul made the case that higher taxes on the poor can force them to make better and healthier life choices. The question is, do you want to pander to those people, or do you want them to live longer? Mr. Bloomberg said in a speech in April of 2018 to the International Monetary Fund in Washington. A video of his remarks has been circulating on social media since Mr. Bloomberg announced in White House run Sunday. It says he made the remarks in defense of regressive taxes, and those taxes are applied uniformly and hit the poor harder, such as taxes on cigarettes and soft drinks. Yes, they are, in parentheses, regressive, said Bloomberg, who famously attempted to ban big gulp soft drinks in New York City to protect the poor from getting fat. He says in a quote, "That's the good thing about them, because the problem is in the people who don't have a lot of money. And so higher taxes should have a bigger impact on their behavior and how they deal with themselves." And then it says, people viewing the video on Twitter label Mr. Bloomberg as a wannabe dictator and a pretty elitist. Stance earned him the nickname Nanny State Mayor when he unsuccessfully pushed the big gulp ban beginning in 2012. But his tax the poor rhetoric now flies in the face of Democratic presidential rivals' mantra of tax the rich. So basically he's saying, if you're poor, you smoke too many cigarettes and eat a bunch of junk food, and maybe we should tax those people because we want them to live healthier lives. I honestly think he entered this race because the whole, Elizabeth Warren wanting to tax the rich. So I think that's why he actually got into this whole thing from the get. But that's my personal opinion. I think it's all moronic. So I'm kind of going backwards on my list that I have. This one I think is funny. This article says Leonardo DiCaprio accused of bankrolling Amazon rainforest fires by the Brazilian president. So it says Leonardo DiCaprio has responded to the Brazilian president. I just call him Bolsonaro, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, his wild accusation that he's been bankrolling the Amazon rainforest fires. Bolsonaro made the unfounded claims on Friday. Bolsonaro said the actor was part of an international, quote, campaign against Brazil. He offered no evidence to support his claims, which many took as an effort to deflect blame for the disaster from his own government. The remarks are also believed tied to the arrest of 4 volunteer firefighters earlier this week who were accused of setting fire to a portion of the forest. They allegedly were attempting to boost fundraising for an unnamed international non-governmental organization, or an NGO, that was rumored to have ties with DiCaprio. It says today DiCaprio responded on Instagram. He said, while worthy of support, we did not fund the organizations targeted. I remain committed to supporting the Brazilian indigenous communities, local governments, scientists, educators, and general public who are working tirelessly to secure the Amazon from future of all Brazilians. It says so far, Bolsonaro's unsubstantiated attack has drawn scorn from politicians and activists. And he made 2 claims on Friday against DiCaprio, first using Facebook and then reportedly telling supporters this Leonardo DiCaprio's a cool guy, isn't he? Giving money for the Amazon to be torched. He earlier made a similar claim in a Facebook live broadcast, saying, in quote, Leonardo DiCaprio, damn it, you're collaborating with the burning of the Amazon. He also said the actor was part of an international campaign against Brazil, and he offered no evidence to support his claims in either instance. But who knows what's going on over there? I just think it's I think that dude tries to do a little bit more for people. You know, he's into the whole climate change and all that stuff. I don't think he's going around giving people money to torch things. I'm not going to read that article. So the more and more we get towards this, what some view as a fake alien invasion. You know, a lot of us kind of just think they're preparing us for something, or they have knowledge of something that they're not telling us. It seems like every major government is funding for more, journeys to the moon and space and Mars and all those different places. So this is European Space Agency gets more funding for future space exploration. The European Space Agency will receive its largest funding boost in 25 years to support more future missions and research projects. The agency's 22 member states agreed Thursday to a budget of nearly $16 billion for the next 5 years. Germany was the largest financial contributor, pledging more than $3.6 billion toward ESA's future efforts, followed by France and Italy respectively. ESA Director General Jan Warner said the EU's Copernicus program in particular received more money than expected, which he chalked up to more interest in studying climate change. He said Copernicus is now the world's leading Earth observation project. This shows all the support for an awareness of our planet, and I think it's good because taxpayers are asking leaders to do something, and you can only do something if you know what to do. Other projects on the list include a collaboration with NASA to send a rover to Mars to collect samples, and a mission to receive defunct satellites and other debris from space, and a project to send the first European astronaut to the moon. Like I said, as we get further and further into either whatever they're planning or whether they know something that's coming, they're not telling the rest of us. Seems like, I think it's honestly either to fake everything for a control aspect, to control us by fear, which is That's their number one way of control, is through fear. You know, creating an illusion or something that's not necessarily there. I've done videos on that. You guys can look at the Project Bluebeam video that I did and kind of, you know, make your own choices. Or they're just doing it to get, you know, more weapons up into space, which is probably what they're going to do, I would imagine. It's more of just a space race to develop a you know, weaponized space stations or whatever. So this article's crazy. Whenever I see, you know, E-Coli on here, which, you know, there's been outbreaks in romaine lettuce and, you know, pork recalls, food recalls, and all this other stuff. Well, this article, it says researchers develop E-Coli strain that eats carbon dioxide. I just thought it was strange that they would even be playing with this to figure this stuff out, but I guess this is what they get paid to do. It says, while you're stuffing turkey leftovers in your belly, the last thing you want to think about is E. coli. It said, but spare thought for the bacterium. It's not always here to harm you, and it needs to eat too. According to a new paper published in Cell, scientists have developed a strain of E. coli that feeds on carbon dioxide. As nature explains, the bacteria usually prefers sugars or glucose, but the lab-created strain could be used to create biofuels with lower emissions footprint than conventional production methods. E. coli, for all its bad press, has already been used to do many useful things. Several years ago, researchers managed to store encrypted data in microorganisms, and there are even E. coli-based, quote, computers. This is the first time we've seen carbon-guzzling strains either, but the previous efforts have only consumed CO2 as a small part of their, quote, diet compared to the largest generation. If you were hoping the new bacteria could be used to suck CO2 out of the air and help save the planet, sadly, that's not viable right now. Not least because this modified bacterium can currently emit more than it consumes. But the team behind the research does claim the strain could be used to develop food and hope that switching to electricity as an energy source might reduce those emissions. As appetizing as E. coli food sounds, we all have to wait a long time to find out what the dinner plate of the future looks like. The researchers say the work is mostly a proof of concept at the time, so our dreams or nightmares of an E. coli-based holiday dinner are still some way off. Something else to be thankful for? See that going bad real quick. So, I read a lot. I've posted, stuff on my personal page about vaccinations, things that videos doctors made about inoculations and all types of stuff. And if you guys are interested, go look at some of those videos that I did. I played, the audio of the videos. I've shared that with you guys. And I personally have never had this shot, and I've never had the flu. So, but this is crazy. It kind of goes into the history of it. I'm not going to get into all that, but the title of the article says, "Building a better flu vaccine one you don't have to get every year. Not something that I want." It says that today Sam became one of the first people to receive an experimental flu vaccine that could one day radically change the shot you get every year. If all goes well, this new shot could last for multiple flu seasons, so you wouldn't have to roll up your sleeve every fall. And importantly, it would be more effective than the shot you get now. Way more effective. Michael's son receives follow-up testing after becoming one of the first people to receive an experimental, quote, universal flu vaccine as part of a clinical drug trial at the National Institutes of Health. While the current flu shot keeps millions of people from getting the flu every year, it's far from perfect. Even on a good year, the effectiveness of the vaccine is about 60%. On a bad year, it's as low as 10%, said Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. And there's a reason for that. It says the reason is that the flu virus is constantly changing. Strains that wreak havoc one flu season are gone the next, replaced by strains that maybe haven't been around for years. Flu is really scary and tricky, said Dr. Julie Ledgerwood, chief of the Clinical Trials Program for the Vaccine Research Center at NIAID, which is part of a National Institute of Health and one of several sites around the U.S. participating in the vaccine trial. With the seasonal vaccines we receive now, each shot can only protect against 3 or 4 strains of the flu. Any scientists have to make an educated guess about which strains to put in it every year. But a universal flu shot would theoretically cover every strain of the flu using what's known as an ice cream cone approach. Hang on just a second. Hang on. People texting me, they know I'm busy right now. It says, picture an ice cream shop that serves a wide variety of colors, all served on the same type of cone. The current flu vaccine takes aim at the ice cream, which changes all the time. The universal flu shot takes aim at the cone, which is a much better target since it always stays the same. So, if you guys want to read any of these articles that I share, I just thought this was just a crazy headline. But if you guys want to check, look into any of these further, I put all the links in the description underneath the video, and you guys can go there and check those out. Hey, what's up, Chuck? So, I don't know if you're still in here or not, Chuck, but you were mentioning that flu shot. I just read an article about a flu shot that you don't have to get every year. If you're interested, it's in the link is in the description. You can go read about that one. It's crazy. So this article came out, and you can see where it's from there, but I mean, a lot of people cover this. I just wanted their perspective of it. But it says oh my goodness, hang on a second. I got people texting me. It's about a job. I'll talk to her after. So, yeah, it's from InfoWars, but it says U.S. Taliban talks are back on. I don't know if you guys followed this story before, but I think whenever they were going to go into this, they allegedly went off and killed a whole bunch of people. Yeah, you should go check that article out, Chuck, about the flu vaccine that you can get that's supposed to last you a lot longer than a season. Just because that joke that you made in the last one that you were going to get yours. So it says the U.S. president spoke of his desire to end the conflict in Afghanistan and said discussions were once again underway with the Taliban. That Trump previously broke off long-anticipated talks in September, as U.S. President Donald Trump said Thursday that talks with the Taliban resumed as he sought to end the United States' longest war. He made the announcement during a surprise visit to U.S. troops in Afghanistan to celebrate Thanksgiving, even serving turkey to armed forces. Around 12,000 U.S. forces remain in Afghanistan. Taliban wants to make a deal, and we are meeting with them, and we're saying it has to be a ceasefire, and they didn't want to do a ceasefire, and now they do want to do a ceasefire, he told reporters. He spent around 3 hours on the ground and sat down with the Afghan president, Ashraf Ghani, and discussed a ceasefire before leaving shortly before midnight. Chuck, I want triple shopper reward points for that shot. It says the trip took place after Trump abruptly broke off peace talks with the Taliban in September, and the president canceled the secret meeting with the Taliban and Afghan leaders after a particularly deadly spate of violence broke out in Kabul, where 12 people were killed, including a U.S. soldier. That's what I was talking about, the previous one. But I'm going to keep watching this because I know he was supposed to meet him somewhere in this country, and they called it off because that whole deal, one of our soldiers was killed, and now he's saying those talks are back on. But who knows? I mean, we'll see, definitely. And I think, you know, I follow this stuff because I think a lot of this stuff is pretty new. It has to do with the military. But it says U.S. forces take huge step towards developing an underwater bullet. So it says a new line of specialized bullets could allow U.S. Special Forces personnel to shoot their weapons submerged, engaging their other divers and their underwater vehicles. While traditional bullets are ineffective underwater, the new bullets work by forming a bubble of air around the bullet, allowing the bullet to travel with fewer physical restrictions. Ordinary bullets are designed to travel through the air at speeds greater than half a mile per second. Traveling through a different medium, well, that's a different story. Bullets rapidly slow to a stop, and once they enter another medium, that's a feature, not a flaw. But what happens if bullets must travel through a medium other than air before striking their target? Water, for example, is 800% denser than air. Bullets quickly lose velocity, slowed by friction as they pass through the medium. I don't have the video, but it says a rifle bullet traveling in excess of 3,000 feet per second exits the barrel of a rifle and slowed to a complete stop in less than 6 feet. The bullet actually begins to tumble less than 2 feet out of the barrel. All of this makes shooting bullets underwater widely impractical. Defense One reports that one company, DSG Technologies, is developing a new bullet that can travel through water by encasing itself in a bubble of gas. The gas bubble decreases the amount of drag on the bullet, speeding it up underwater. This process is known as cavitation, and is used by the Russian VA-111 Scaval torpedo to travel up to 5 times faster as conventional torpedoes. The CavX supercavitating, there it is, ammunition is classified by the company as a multi-environment ammunition. The company says this projectile is effective against submerged targets and targets in the air, depending on the weapon and used loading variant. This ammunition is suitable for use in partial or fully submerged weapons, regardless of if the target is in water or on the surface. By definition, the I can't talk right tonight. Anyways, the bullet must create a gas bubble to surround the object moving through water. So DSG's bullets must somehow create that bubble around the bullet. One possibility is that the bullet somehow harness the hot, expanding gases from burning gunpowder, the same gases that force bullet through the barrel and downrange to create a bubble around the bullet. I'm not even trying to pronounce that again, although I did it once right, but yeah, I should just say Cav. Telling you what, if you want to come to a place and watch someone butcher names on reading the news, I'm your man. I thought this was This article says White House CDC feuding over study of toxic chemicals in drinking water. So I guess we all kind of know that they find all sorts of stuff in our drinking water. And then the article I read the night, they found, alprazolam and some like 70% of the blood they tested for transfusions. Well, now here's one about chemicals in the drinking water. So I find a lot of this, chemicals in the drinking water, chemicals in blood that they give in blood transfusions, poisons in food. You can see in the thumbnail there, more just technocratic dystopia type of spy surveillance that they do by accident in our cell phones, all that stuff. But it says hundreds of barrels of dirt sample collected from a former Wolverine worldwide tannery site in Rockford, Michigan, March 1st, 2019. And there's all that there, but it says a multi-million-dollar federal study on toxic chemicals in drinking water across the country is facing delays because of a dispute within the Trump administration, according to several people involved in the study or have knowledge of the process. It says the dispute has implications for more than half a dozen communities where drinking water has been heavily contaminated with I'm just going to call that PFAS. It says concerns about the chemicals have exploded nationally in recent years following decades of PFAS use in products including non-stick cookware, water-resistant clothing, food packaging, carpets, and military firefighting foam. Scientists say significant delays could limit the effectiveness of the study. The unregulated chemicals are known to exist at some level in the drinking water of tens of millions of Americans, with one estimate placing the number as high as 110 million. The chemicals are also the subject of, quote, Dark Waters, a film released in November starring Mark Ruffalo and Anne Hathaway. Some prior studies of PFAS have linked the chemicals to health problems, including high cholesterol, reproductive issues, and testicular and kidney cancer. There's also in BPAs. If you guys don't know what that is, it's in your plastics too. As other studies have failed to replicate some of those results, and some PFAS are better researched than others, leaving the exact implications of exposure unknown. It says, can you get cancer from tap water? New study says even safe drinking water poses a risk. With public concerns rising, congressional lawmakers in 2018 appropriated $10 million for a nationwide study to offer more definitive answers about health effects. The money was budgeted for the Department of Defense, which is also facing at least $2 billion in PFAS cleanup liabilities. The money then flowed to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This summer, the U.S. Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, an arm of the CDC, announced that it would use the funds to study highly exposed communities in California, Colorado, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. And by the way, thanks to the people in Pennsylvania and New Jersey that listen to the podcast. I appreciate that. It says the design of the study shops out the actual research to academic or government partners in each state and provides grant funding to conduct the work. It says, but the study is off to a slow start, with a dispute between the CDC and White House Office of Management and Budget playing a role, sources say. It says a sign at Milford, Michigan Central Park advises anglers not to eat fish caught from Hubble Pond or the Huron River due to potentially harmful PFAS contamination. In this September 8, 2008, 18 photo. So I guess it's just everywhere. But they won't tell you about the glyphosates that leak into your water, or the stuff that they put on your food to, cure it faster, to get it to the store faster. And there's a reason why a lot of people have bowel issues, so they blame it on gluten, when it's just the stuff they're spraying on the food so they can get it to the stores faster, so they in turn can make $1 faster. They'll just poison you and then blame it on gluten. And then, people have IBS and leaky bowel syndrome and ulcerative colitis and ulcers and all that stuff. It says the issue was first referenced publicly on Tuesday by Robert Lumbach, an environmental health researcher at Rutgers University, during a press conference held by U.S. Representative Frank Pallone. Democrat from New Jersey. Limbach is the lead investigator for the New Jersey portion of the study, which will focus on PFAS impacted communities in Gloucester County near Philadelphia. Unfortunately, the study is being held up in the Office of Management and Budget with no clear timeline for approval. It says, in an interview with USA Today Network, Limbach said he heard from federal partners that the CDC had asked the White House to review a draft design of the national study. Under the Federal Paperwork Reduction Act, studies such as CDC's must go to the Office of Management and Budget for formal review and cannot be started until approved. Limbach said he was told that OMB didn't pick up the review. Instead, the White House referenced an ongoing CDC pilot study on PFAS at the Peace International Trade Port in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. According to Limbach, OMB said that the Peace study should be completed before the review of the national study could begin. They sort of sent it back and said, "We thought you were going to wait for the Peace study." So there's one health advisor: contaminated jugs of water remain in New England supermarkets. But it goes on, it says Limbach said he understands the CDC is arguing that Peace study, which started in October, can be done concurrently with a White House review of a larger national study. Whether or not OMB sort of accepts that reasoning is an open question, Limbach said. Asked about the study, the CDC in an email offered no indication anything is amiss, adding the agency is, quote, in the process of finalizing the study design so it can be sent to OMB. This is a normal process all federal agencies go through, the CDC wrote. We expect to send the protocol to OMB for review in early 2020. Just more. So, you live in these states and you listen to this or you watch this later. California, Colorado, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. Just know that they're looking for chemicals, poisons in your water. Michigan, I mean, you know, Flint doesn't have water, and I don't know how long they've been, I think at 3 years now with no water. So I talk about, you know, trade routes from Asia into Russia. Well, this article came out, and I find it interesting because it says first highway bridge connecting China and Russia is complete. Oh, come on. And do this. I'm trying like two different things here. I use OneNote usually, and now I'm using oh, what is this program? Instapaper or something like that. And then it just goes back and forth. Do this. This Instapaper has this neat little thing. Click a button on the extension, and then it does this. So this is doing the same thing. Anyways, it says Russia officials have announced Friday that construction on the first road bridge to connect. Come on. To connect Russia and China is now complete, and both countries say the bridge may allow for better relations between the two countries. The bridge which connects, and that's a huge name, Vlaskovishnek, Russia, and Aihe, China, is set to open next spring, according to Reuters. It will help promote an exchange of freight traffic and agricultural products. And I already said that they were doing this too. So yeah, the $295 million project is more than 1,700 feet long and is estimated to transport 4 million metric tons of goods and 2 million Chinese tourists every year over the Amur River, according to the Moscow Times. Each country built their half of the bridge. It just goes along with what I'm saying. You know, they signed the there's like an Asia trade agreement with a bunch of the places over there. They signed that, and Turkey is with Russia and Syria, and they are clearing trade routes to go from there through the Middle East, even up into Russia. So building alliances and opening trade routes. Become less dependent on us. That one's a dumb one. So you guys know about the thing that happened over in London. People were killed on the bridge, and that whole ordeal that happened there. This article says the London Bridge bystander who helped pin down attacker is convicted murderer on day release. So I found this very interesting. This convicted murderer out on day release was among the bystanders who rushed to help during the London Bridge terror attack. James Ford, 42, is thought to have tried to save the life of a female victim and help disarm convicted terrorists, I'm not going to say his name, who stabbed a man and woman to death and injured several others on Friday. Ford was jailed for life in 2004 for the murder of a 21-year-old Amanda Champion who had a mental age of 15. So anyways, but he says he admitted to the murder, and goes into his whole deal there. Said he had been attending a Learning Together conference for prison rehabilitation at Fishmongers Hall while on day release earlier that day. Khan had been at the same event. But despite Ford's actions, the family of his victims say he is no hero. So, I just thought it was crazy. A convicted murderer stopped a terrorist attack who killed 2 people. Still gets no forgiveness from the victims of the family whom, you know, he'd killed their daughter, and rightfully so. Some things I just think people can't get past. You guys probably heard about a lot of stuff. I usually save the main articles until the end. 14 killed in blazing Mexican gunfight ahead of Barr's visit. It says Mexican police got into a blazing hour-long gunfight with cartel members on Saturday, leaving 14 dead and the local mayor's office riddled with bullets. The explosion of violence comes days before Attorney General Bill Barr is set to travel to Mexico for discussions on security, and days after President Trump threatened to designate drug gangs as terrorists. 10 suspected cartel members and 4 officers were killed in Coahuila near the U.S. border, according to Reuters, which reported that others were still missing. This is a short article. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but I'm not going to read this one either, but 10 people shot in New Orleans. I'm sure everybody's heard about that one already. This one came out today because I cover a lot of the rioting and different stuff that's going on there, but Hong Kong police fire tear gas at protesters in new wave of demonstrations. Says police dispersed anti-government demonstrators in Hong Kong on Sunday, using tear gas after a protest and separate march meant to show gratitude to the U.S. government for backing the uprising, Reuters reported. Hundreds of people turned out for the protest in Tsim Sha Tsui, a shopping district where local businesses closed early before police began spraying tear gas, according to the news service. The unrest followed a week of relative stability after candidates favoring direct elections of city leaders saw major victories in municipal elections. The period of relative calm followed months of nearly uninterpreted demonstrations sparked early in the summer when Chief Executive Carrie Lam introduced a bill to allow extradition of some criminal suspects to China. We had demonstrations, peaceful protests, lobbying inside the council, a lot of things we had done, but they all failed. A graduate student who gave his name as Felix said at Sunday demonstration, Reuters noted. He also added that there are still 5 demands from protesters, including direct elections, Lam's resignation, and a third-party probe into police brutality against protesters. Lam formally withdrew the extradition bill earlier in the year in hopes it would stem the protest, but they have largely continued unabated, with protesters occupying and barricading the campus of Hong Kong's Polytechnic University in November before about 1,100 occupiers were arrested last week. On Sunday, numerous protesters waved American flags, with some of them unfurling a banner depicting President Trump after he signed bipartisan legislation backing protesters after initially suggesting he would not do anything to jeopardize a trade deal with Beijing and saying, quote, "If it weren't for me, thousands of people would have been killed in Hong Kong right now." As far as that goes, I'm glad he chose life of the people over the money. This aircraft radio fault led to RAF jet sonic booms. It says 2 Royal Air Force Typhoons caused sonic booms as they went to intercept an aircraft which had lost its radio contact over southeast England. The fighters from RAF Conisbee in Lincolnshire were cleared to go supersonic because of the emergency. The booms were heard in the early hours across London, Herefordshire, and Bedfordshire. The aircraft's first developed problems as it flew across Germany on its way to the U.S., said one of its pilots. The pilot praised the speed of the RAF response, but said he was shocked when he first saw the fighters. Stephen Giordano told the BBC, quote, "It took us about 10 minutes to realize that the radio wasn't working, and then about 10 minutes to resolve that problem." Said, "Amazing how fast the RAF reacted. I applauded them for that." He said the crew was busy checking frequencies when the radio came back online and had not noticed the RAF fighters. He said in a quote, "I looked left and about had a heart attack when I saw one. So close, strobes on, and with bluish glow stripes along the side of his fuselage. We flashed our landing lights to acknowledge and establish radio contact on guard with the fighters. We were already talking to London Control at that point. They remained with us for about 5 minutes." He said the empty aircraft eventually landed safely in the U.S., and the sonic booms woke people up about 4:20, with houses shaking, reports of police sirens sounding immediately after. Metropolitan Police subsequently confirmed the bang was a result of the RFA aircraft being cleared to go faster than the speed of sound. RAF jets are only given permission to go supersonic in emergencies, usually when they are required to intercept another aircraft. An RAF spokeswoman said Typhoon aircraft from RAF Conisbee were scrambled this morning as a part of the UK's Quick Reaction Alert, or the QRA procedures, after an aircraft lost communication in UK airspace. The aircraft was intercepted and its communications were subsequently re-established. Janet from Hertfordshire told the BBC she heard a, quote, "huge thud and felt her house shake at 4:17. She wondered whether her boiler had blown up or a tree had fallen on the house. I got up, looked around and out the window, and things looked fine, she said. Went downstairs and went to the room, looking for cracks in the walls and ceilings. And then it goes into what causes a sonic boom. So if you're in London and heard your house shake this morning, there's the reason. Now this article, now I'm going to get more into the, the technocratic dystopia they're trying to kind of roll out everywhere. This is in Australia and it's not here yet, and I'm surprised. Maybe they're just testing it out here to see if it works, and then we'll get something along these lines here. But here's basically what happens here is you get pulled over. Well, you're talking on your cell phone, but your cell phone's in your pocket, and you were scratching your head, but you still get a ticket for being on your cell phone. You weren't on your cell phone. So they're actually have rolled out something. It's a high definition detection cameras. Basically tell if somebody is on their cell phone when they're behind the wheel, in hopes that it brings down, accidents, fatality accidents, and motor vehicle accidents in general over in Australia. Here we have laws in every state, depending on what state, what county, what area, wherever you're at. Law enforcement can go in and give any type of laws or ordinances that they want in order to keep you off your phone. And tickets usually are the way to go. This is world's first cell phone detection cameras rolled out in Australia. This is the Australian state of New South Wales rolled out high-definition detection cameras on Sunday designed to catch drivers using cell phones behind the wheel. Andrew Constance, New South Wales Minister for Roads, said the, quote, world-first technology would target illegal cell phone use through fixed and mobile trailer-mounted cameras. Cameras will use artificial intelligence to review images and detect illegal use of cell phones, according to Transport for NSW. Images identified as being likely to contain a driver illegally using a call phone. That's funny. Will then be verified by authorized personnel. Authorities said, noting the images captured by the system would be, quote, securely stored and managed. India is trying to build the world's biggest facial recognition system. It says over the next 3 years, 45 portable cameras will be set up across the state in unknown locations and without warning signs. It says for the first 3 months, drivers caught out by the technology will receive a warning letter. Transport for the New South Wales said in a statement, after which offenders will face a fine up to $344 or $457 in a school zone and a penalty points on their driver's license. The NSW government is serious about reducing our state's road toll and rolling out mobile phone detection cameras. In another way, we will do this, Andrew Constantine, Minister for Roads, said in a statement. Officials said that a trial of the technology earlier in the year had caught more than 100,000 drivers illegally using a phone at the wheel. It says some 329 people have died this year on New South Wales roads. Reuters news agencies reported, compared with 354 people for all of 2018, according to official statistics. The state wants to cut number of road fatalities by 30% by 2021. It says making and receiving phone calls while driving is illegal in New South Wales, but using hands-free technology. Other functions including using social media, video calling, photography, playing audio while driving are only legal if a driver has parked their vehicle outside of traffic. I just say don't use your cell phone while you're driving. If it's that big of an emergency, just pull over and use it. I used to drive for a living, so I always keep mine in my pocket. I use a Bluetooth headset when I drive, or link it to a car. I don't drive and text, or I'm not on my phone when I drive. Believe it or not, They say it's more dangerous than drunk driving, because at least when you're drunk driving, like you're trying to focus. And I'm not saying drinking and driving is okay by making this statement whatsoever, but when you're drunk driving, you're trying to focus hardcore. When you're looking at your phone, you're focused down here, not paying any attention what's going on. Both are ignorant. So. I read these and I forgot to go back to the top of the page. So this article says surveillance on steroids, how artificial intelligence is making Big Brother bigger and brainier. It says it's no big secret that we live in a surveillance state, and the average American is caught on CCTV camera an estimated 75 times a day. Meanwhile, an average Londoner, the world's most photographed person, is snapped on public and private security cameras an estimated 300 times every 24 hours. But if you thought the future was just more cameras and more places, you better think again. Thanks to a breakthrough in fields like computer vision, tomorrow's surveillance society is going to be a whole lot more advanced. The amount of information which can be extracted from video footage is increasing all the time. As a result, instead of simply static recordings made for future reference, or live feeds viewed by bored workers watching banks of monitors at the same time, CCTV is getting smarter, way smarter. I'm talking multiple orders of magnitude smarter, and a whole lot more mobile too. It says the eye on the sky. There's one such new technology, that so-called aerial suspicious analyst, Asana, is the work of a computer vision company, Skylark Labs. Asana is a drone-based security system designed to spot suspicious activity in crowds of hundreds of people from anywhere between 10 feet and 300 feet. Drones equipped with its cloud-based technology can hover over large gatherings of people and accurately identify behavior such as fighting, kicking, stabbing, fighting with weapons, and more. That's alongside non-suspicious activities like high-fiving, dancing, and hugging, used to make the system more robust to false alerts. The system is also being modified to spot suspicious objects such as unattended bags. It says alerts can then be sent to the relevant authorities. So hard talk, they want to put this stuff in your Ring doorbell, so don't buy those. The system first detects the posture of every human in a scene, founder and CEO Amarat Singh told Digital Trends. The human pairs which are within certain predetermined proximity are jointly analyzed based on the motion of the postures to determine if an alert should be generated. Once it is determined that the pair is involved in a suspicious event, the posture of the individual human is further analyzed to determine if one of them or both are responsible for the alert, after which one or both are tracked through the crowd. The system can also re-identify the individuals if they move out of the visual field of the drone. Chuck said, Australia's freedom is gone. Yes, it most definitely is gone. And I also agree with putting makeup on while you're driving is also ignorant. Doing anything aside from driving a vehicle when you're supposed to be driving a vehicle is ignorant. You're behind a huge, it's potentially, it could kill anyone. You're driving a quarter-ton vehicle, besides if you drive one of those micro cars, whatever those things are called, Fiat, or the little toy cars. I call them puddle skippers. But even those can be dangerous. But yeah, if you're doing anything aside from just driving a vehicle going from point A to point B, if you're distracted by all that stuff, get up earlier, don't answer the phone, get a car where you can link the phone to the car, do that type of stuff. Don't put someone else's life in jeopardy or your own life in jeopardy, trying to fix your face or answer a text message or, get behind the wheel inebriated. It's just ignorant. It says an AI graduate from Cambridge University and a postdoctoral fellow at Stanford University, Singh said he was inspired to develop the technology after the 2013 Boston Marathon bombings and 2017 Manchester Arena bombing, between which 26 people died and many more were wounded. The current CCTV type surveillance systems are not enough to identify these attackers in time. Here's one thing I don't understand about CCTV. So, you know how like we have all this high definition stuff now, and it's like, oh, we caught the suspect on CCTV, but those are like the most blurry, grainy videos you ever see. Is the CCTV footage. I don't know why people haven't gone to the high definition video cameras, but you get better detail. But yeah, caught them on CCTV and it's like all blurred out. It says the current CCTV type surveillance systems were not enough to identify the attackers in time, Singh said. This is due to the limited field of view of the CCTV cameras, which makes it possible for aggressive individuals to avoid detection. A surveillance system mounted on the drone is likely to capture these individuals due to its large field of view, and attacks like these could be prevented in future if surveillance cameras can automatically spot suspicious behavior, like someone leaving a bag unattended for a long period of time. I don't know, man. When you start to rely on computers for, judging a person's mannerisms or a simple mistake, forgetting a bag or some people are just, we're humans, we have flaws, and then you're going to rely on a computer. I can see it in crowds, like I can see it being used for something like that, but just a computer just assuming that you're making a mistake all the time. This completely reminds me of the Matrix. At one moment they gave power over to artificial intelligence, and then they took over everything. It weirdly, eerily seems like that's where we're headed right now. Like we're just going to give all this intelligence to the computers, let them listen to us so they can build their own vocabulary and a whole pool of different words. And then they'll just know the tone of voice, emotion. Alexa now has emotion when you talk to her. And she can sound somber or happy or excited. It's just weird. Like all the stuff we're getting into, all the stuff I just think is weird. I don't see like relying on computers to pretty much rat you out. And then, hackers getting into this stuff and then putting in whatever stuff they want to about a person. It says, could such pose spotting technology be used to identify potential troublemakers by their behavior before they cause any actual trouble? Certain signs of aggression can be captured by these AI systems, but it might not be a good idea to use those to flag people, as they might not necessarily act on it, Singh said. That being said, it could also prevent certain crimes from happening if aggression is detected in advance. So then you just have, more futurism crimes going on. It says it's worth noting, of course, that such smart cameras don't necessarily have to be used to identify aggressive behavior, and there are plenty of scenarios in which it might be desirable to spot certain other behavior in advance so that it can be acted upon. For instance, authorities have long used computer vision algorithms on the London Underground subway system to watch for potential suicide jumpers. The tech worked by looking for individuals who wait on a platform for at least 10 minutes and miss multiple available trains during that time. If this occurs, the AI triggers an alarm. Similarly, recent European Union proposals state that all new cars on the road as of mid-2022 must be equipped with special driver monitoring systems capable of telling whether the person behind the wheel is distracted. To help with this, Israeli computer vision startup EyeSight Technologies has developed in-car monitoring technology that can spot when drivers are tired, using a smartphone, or even smoking at the wheel. They can then send out an alert. Needless to say, this area nonetheless presents a possible ethical minefield. It says, this area nonetheless presents a possible ethical minefield, as it could be seen by numerous people who pile up on both sides of the Apple's versus FBI debate from several years ago, when Apple refused to create a backdoor into the iOS operating system to help investigators. There is no consensus opinion when it comes to surveillance. And this is what I'm saying, like, because people don't tell on people, you're just going to have everybody's technology that you develop telling everybody. And that's what we're getting to, just the robots telling everybody. The artificial intelligence. Take your job to tell on you. It says things become even dicier when you add up the possible related topics of predictive policing. That's what I was talking about earlier. They just want to predict if you're going to do something. It says, or the possibility that similar technology could be used to target and intimidate marginalized groups by spotting other forms of banned behavior. In certain countries, that could be used to surveil same-sex couples exhibiting affectionate behavior. In other scenarios, it could be exploited to alert authorities of gathering crowds in areas where no crowds are expected. This is just crazy. So it's basically predictive policing, and then we're going to give the power over to the androids that not only are supposed to take a large percentage of the jobs over by the mid, 2020s, then we're going to give them the power to rat on us, whether you're distracted in your car, walking up to your house, getting facial recognition software, and then to a police department and says, oh, that guy has a warrant out for his arrest for unpaid parking tickets, and they show up at your house and arrest you for a bench warrant. So you're just going to let all these drones and everything. So this is like the movie with Tom Cruise. I can't even think of the name of it right now, where they do the predictive policing. And then the one where the Upgrade movie, where the drones fly around and police everybody, scan their face and look for obscure behavior, and then all that stuff is gathered and reported back to the police departments. So this is where we're headed. They're passing it off as, I always say this, a utopia, but at the end it's going to be dystopian, because if anyone who controls the technology can just put whatever they want to into the technology and then use it for nefarious reasons, they could they could then lock whoever they wanted to up. I mean, you've seen the deep fakes, I'm sure. It says the model for today's surveillance technologies is often said to be here's another word. A prison concept designed by the English social theorist John Betham in 18th century. The Panopticon, I don't know, ask us to imagine a central watchtower as a courtyard surrounded by a circular arrangement of cells. This is a guard in a watchtower which shines a bright light outwards so they can see everyone in the cells. However, the people in the cells are unable to see the watchman. As a result, they assume that they are always being closely observed. As a French philosopher Michael Foucault observed in 1975 book Discipline and Punish, the result is a form of asymmetrical surveillance. The prisoners, despite outnumbering the guards, moderate their own behavior under the assumption that they are always being watched. So that's what they want us to do, is just live in a perpetual form of fear that we're being watched by the eyes in the sky. While theoretically anyone or even no one could be in the hypothetical watchtower. Wow. The way subjects moderate their behavior depends on their regard for the person that is supposedly watching them. A theoretical prisoner is going to act differently if they are being watched by a seasoned veteran, capable of spotting them the most surreptitious of behavior compared to a novice. We have yet to see what behavior moderating impact the next generation of surveillance tools will have on the populace. Combine pose-predicting technology in public with the increased use of facial recognition everywhere, from bars to hotels, and people are going to be more aware than ever that they are constantly being watched. In some contexts, that could be a great thing. In others, it would be concerning. Because I think it's kind of technology. It can be used to develop effective safety and security systems that can aid law enforcement and can ensure the safety of individuals in public places, Singh said. Therefore, I think the development of these systems is a good thing and also necessary. That being said, I think these systems should be used with caution and should be monitored for specific applications like defense, similar to nuclear technologies. So let's just get drones in the sky watching your face, get your Ring doorbell narking you out to the cops. Let's get the cameras inside your cell phones having glitches and watching what you do or who you're talking to or what you're researching. Also gathering, your metadata, your fingerprints, your facial recognition software in your car, all of those things. Let's just take all that information and gather it. So this is why I put the moon in the thumbnail. It says there's now a radio telescope in operation on the far side of the moon. It says the Change 4 mission, the fourth installment of the Chinese lunar exploration program, has made some significant achievements since it launched in December of 2018. In January of 2019, the mission lander and its U-2 Jade Rabbit 2 rover became the first robotic explorers to achieve a soft landing on the far side of the moon. Around the same time, it became the first mission to grow plants on the moon with mixed results. In the latest development, the Netherlands-China low-frequency explorer, the E-Coli, commenced operations after a year of orbiting the moon. This instrument was mounted on the E-Coli communication satellite and consists of 3 5-meter or 16.4 feet long monopole antennas that are sensitive to radio frequencies in the 80 kilohertz to 80 megahertz range. With this instrument now active, Change 4 has now entered into the next phase of its mission. It says the radio observatory is a result of a collaboration between the Netherlands Institute for Radio Astronomy, or Astron, and the China National Space Agency, or CNSA. Astron has a long history of conducting radio astronomy, which includes the operation of the largest radio telescopes in the world. Westerbork Synthesis Radio Telescope, or the WSRT, which is also a part of the European Very Long Baseline Interferometry Network, or EVN. So here's a little picture here. So they put you're looking at the screen. You can see the mouse going around the lunar far side is where they have it. And then it's pinging off the satellite, pinging back to Earth. Is what they're saying that they're doing here. So it says the E-Coli is the first observatory built in the Netherlands and China to conduct radio astronomy experiments while orbiting on the far side of the moon. This location is considered ideal for such experiments since it's removed from any terrestrial radio interference. It is for this reason that Gunfight, I guess that's how you pronounce it, I'm not sure, has had an active communications relay with the Change 4 mission, since radio signals cannot reach the far side of the moon directly. While the E-Coli is capable of mounting multiple forms of scientific research, its main purpose is to conduct groundbreaking experiments in radio astronomy. Particularly, the E-Coli will gather data in the 20 centimeter 8.25 inch emission range, which corresponds with the earliest periods of cosmic history. These are otherwise known as the Dark Ages and Cosmic Dawn, which have previously been inaccessible to astronomers. By examining light from the earliest periods of the universe, astronomers will finally be able to answer some of the most enduring questions about the universe. These include when the first stars and galaxies formed, as well as the influence of dark matter and dark energy on cosmic evolution. Until now, the E-Coli satellite is primarily a communications relay between the lander and rover and mission controllers on Earth. But with the primary goals of the Change 4 mission now achieved, the China National Space Agency has entered into the next phase of operations, which is to operate a radio observatory on the far side of the moon. Pretty rad picture. It says, as Mark Klein, Watt, and the managing director of the Radboud Radio Lab and leader of Dutch team expressed. Our contribution to the Chinese Change 4 mission has now increased tremendously, and we had the opportunity to perform our observations during the 14-day-long night behind the moon, which is much longer than was originally the idea. The moon night is ours now. The unfolding of the antennas is the culmination of 3 years of hard work, and demonstration of this technology is expected to pave the way for new opportunities for radio instruments in space. In addition to scientists with Astron and CNSA, there is no shortage of people around the world who are eagerly awaiting the NCLE's first radio measurements. Professor Hein Falk, the chair of astrophysics and radio astronomy at Radboud University, is also the scientific leader of the Dutch-Chinese radio telescope. As he explained, we are finally in business to have radio astronomy instrument of Dutch origin in space. The team has worked incredibly hard, and the first data will reveal how well the instrument truly performs. Here's a whole little video here. It says, the deployment of the instrument was meant to happen sooner than the year-long wait behind the moon is believed to have had an effect on the antennas. Initially, the antennas unfolded smoothly, but the progress became increasingly sluggish as time went on. As a result, the team decided to collect data first from the partially deployed antennas may decide to unfold them further later. Just thought this was interesting. It's all this just talk of space and communications in outer space. And I know it says Far Side of the Moon, but it reminded me of a Pink Floyd song. So, yeah. I think I got 3 more articles here. This says a World War II bomb defused in Turin after thousands evacuate. More than 10,000 people were evacuated from central Turin on Sunday as experts worked to defuse a World War II bomb. Residents of the Italian city were told to evacuate a, quote, red zone in the historic district. A further 50,000 living further away were told either to leave their homes in advance or to remain inside during the operation. British bomb dropped on the city 70 years ago contained 65 kilograms or 140 pounds of dynamite, authorities said. Turin Mayor Sharia Pinadino said the detonator at the tail end of the device needed deactivating. Local media said on Sunday afternoon that the operation to decommission the bomb had been completed faster than expected, and residents with the 2 zones had been allowed to go home. It says soldiers were deployed to patrol the 2 areas in order to avoid theft and looting. It said airspace above Turin was closed during the operation. And earlier this year, 4,500 people in Germany were evacuated and a World War II bomb was exploded under controlled circumstances. I don't know if that's the actual picture of it there, but here, I don't know if that's the actual picture of it there, but still finding stuff. So this article says Zimbabwe is trying to build a China-style surveillance state. Everywhere is trying to build one. But here's the funny thing about our country. We just hand over our liberties. They say, oh, we're going to do this. And everyone's like, oh, yes, lords. Everyone else sees this stuff coming and they don't want to have anything to do with it. So they, fight back against their governments. And we're just like, here, take my liberties. I don't want them. It says the end of Robert Mugabe's brutal 37-year dictatorship is over in Zimbabwe in 2017 was greeted by scenes of wild jubilation on the streets of Harare by people who'd seen their dream of independence from minority white rule turned into tyranny under the aging dictator's leadership. But it was on social media that Zimbabwe first found their voice to rise up against the 93-year-old strongman, with platforms like WhatsApp, Facebook, and Twitter proving to be vital in mobilizing and coordinating countrywide protest. Now, just 2 years later, activists say the government that replaced Mugabe's is trying to silence those same social media accounts with legislation that bears all the hallmarks of China's dystopian censorship and surveillance system. It's a terrifying piece of legislation. Zimbabwe's parliament is weighing legislation that would authorize the use of surveillance technologies, grant sweeping powers to crack down on social media users, and allow the government to snoop on citizens' private communications. The latest version of the bill, known as the Cybercrime, Cybersecurity, and Data Protection Bill of 2019, was passed by President Emerson last month and is currently being drafted for publication and approval by Parliament, where it is expected to easily pass under his party. It says activists warn things could get ugly soon after that. This is a terrifying piece of legislation. A researcher at the Zimbabwe Democracy Institute told Vice News, it has everything it needs to give the ruling ZANU-PF party and its agents in government the legal basis to imprison opponents using the internet. Although the public still doesn't know exactly what the final version of the bill will contain, activists say it will likely be overly broad and lacking in sort of necessary protections that rights groups have called for in the past. The definitions of crimes were described in such broad terms that they could arrest people because they had said something on social media platforms to criticize the government or say something that is unfair to the government. So now it looks like they're moving in over there too. So we I don't know. We have stuff sort of like this here. People freak out on the you call it the TAPS Act. You can call it the red flag laws. Basically, if you make idle threats or, for real threats, they can just show up to your house and pull you out, Just handing it on over. Here, government, have our liberties. Oops. So, Schwab abandons a high-tax San Francisco for new $100 million mega HQ in Dallas. If you guys don't know this, there are people in California that watch my videos because I talk a lot about the fires that are going on over there. They also listen to the podcast, so thanks you guys out there that do that. I appreciate it. But you may think because they're in California, the majority of them like their governor. That's not true. They don't like their governor, and they're ticked off because all the fires that are happening over there, and they're just tired of it. So people are leaving California in droves. I mean, they're having like a huge exodus from California. Everyone's bailing out. They're tired of it. So not only are people leaving, and now you have businesses leaving because the taxes, I guess, in California are just way too high. I've always wanted to go there just to visit. I don't necessarily want to even visit there anymore, honestly. My wife used to live there. I don't think I would even visit, but it says Charles Schwab's $26 billion deal to acquire TD Ameritrade will result in the relocation of a San Francisco-based headquarters to Dallas-Fort Worth, reported the Wall Street Journal. Schwab gave no time frame on the transition to Westlake, a suburb of Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. So the region is considered one of the fastest growing financial hubs in the country at the moment. The merger is expected to be completed in, I'm guessing they meant to put 2020 there, and could take 12 to 36 months to integrate both firms completely. Schwab's new Dallas-Fort Worth campus will cost around $100 million, cover 70 acres with 500,000 square feet of office space. Schwab chairman and founder Charles Schwab noted that one of the drivers in the move out of California was the high cost of doing business in the state. Costs of doing business here are so much higher than some other place. Says Schwab expects the merger could produce 20% savings, or about $2 billion. Says with this transaction, we will capitalize on the unique opportunity to build a firm with a soul of a challenger and the resources of a large financial service institution that will be uniquely positioned to serve the investment, trading, and wealth management needs of investors across every phase of their financial journeys. Schwab President Walt Bettinger said in a statement. The Lone Star State imposed a 0.75% franchise tax on business margins. It's total revenue minus compensation, which is substantially less than the corporate tax rates in California, which is 8.84%, and Nebraska's 7.81%, with TD Ameritrade is currently headquartered. City of San Francisco also imposes a 0.38% payroll tax and a 0.6% gross receipts tax on financial service companies. It says Texas has no individual income tax, while the top rate on income and capital gains in California is 13.3%, and Lone Star State's housing and energy costs is substantially lower. The average monthly rent in San Francisco is $3,870 compared to $1,200 in Dallas. Schwab workers and executives can have higher standard of living and more after-tax income at the same salaries. Schwab said it would keep a sizable corporate footprint in San Francisco, but the brokerage house will likely wind down operations in the state through 2025. So if you guys are interested in any of these articles that I read, you can check out the links in the descriptions below, and I'm gonna go ahead and sign off here. But if you guys want to send me articles, you can go to the about section on the YouTube channel, and it has links to all the pages, my website, and all that stuff. And if you ever, as this builds, I'm sure people will want to call in and talk about some of the stuff or send articles. You can always call a number that's scrolling at the bottom of the screen, and you can also chat in the chat room. I try to pay attention to it as much as possible. But I'm going to go ahead and get off here. You guys have a safe week coming up. And until next time, y'all bless.